During our recent travels to Europe, when Carol and I had the opportunity to join a couple of tours, one of the most beautiful locations that we visited, among the many that were just amazing, was Hungary, the country of Hungary, and the city of Budapest in Hungary. And during our visit there, we had the privilege of meeting a local tour guide who was enlisted to teach us some of the things about the city of Budapest and about the country of Hungary. And we just found her to be so knowledgeable, so charming, so just, I don't know, engaging, that I really wanted to take the opportunity to learn more from her and learn more of her story. And I talked to her about it while we were there in Budapest, and she was so agreeable to it. So you're going to meet a tour guide who has an amazing story to tell, and that who I hope will inspire you to want to visit her beautiful country. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, good morning. If you are on the West Coast, obviously, good morning, or some of the other time zones that we typically are being watched from. It may be afternoon where you are as well, but wherever you are, let us know that you're here. Say hello in the chat. I see that Chelan is here. Yeah, mostly you. Okay. So, as I mentioned, Carol and I enjoy travel. It's one of the things that we actually began doing before we retired, and really continued to look forward to once we did retire. We've had the opportunity to take a couple of trips and really enjoy being able to go to places, sometimes to go back to places we've visited before, sometimes new places. And during part of August and into September, we had the opportunity to travel across the pond, and we spent almost a full month traveling. And that included a couple of different organized tours, as well as some time spent on our own. And it was amazing throughout. And I was quite proud of us because we managed 28 days of travel and came home still feeling pretty energized. But one of the places that we had the opportunity to visit was Hungary. And it was special for us going in because on my dad's side of the family, my maternal grandmother's family was from Budapest, Hungary. They had moved to Croatia, where my grandmother was actually born, and where my dad ultimately was born. My grandparents were married, and my dad was born. But Hungary is still part of my history, part of my heritage. And so we wanted to go there. And we found Hungary and the city of Budapest to be beautiful, extraordinarily beautiful. And it became one of those places that Carol and I have said, if given the opportunity, we would go back and visit Hungary again. We'd go back and spend more time in the country, more time in Budapest itself. So we're going to be spending some time today hearing from someone who is from there and lives there and is a tour guide there, and hear how her story, how that developed, and what she thinks is most inviting and intriguing about her country. Before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about our sweet and savory today. I just want to say hello to who else has joined. Rick is here. Carla is here. And if you are joining us, do make sure that you comment in the chat, that you let us know that you are here. We do moderate the chat. So our encouragement and request, and actually requirement, is that the chat remain appropriate, respectful, and you can cross converse with each other. We don't mind that. You're our brew crew, and you're sitting around the virtual coffee table. But we do ask that it remain respectful and relevant to being here in the chat. But in the meantime, I wanted to share a couple of things that are coming up, and a couple of things that that I read about this week, or something that I read about this week, that I thought would be special to share with you. This was a cool story. This is in a Louisiana state penitentiary. Incarcerated men were able to dance with their daughters for one special night, and many of whom had not seen each other, daughters and the dads, for years. The tear jerking occasion was organized by a nonprofit organization called God Behind Bars. They are located in Angola, Louisiana, and they partner with churches and ministries on behalf of incarcerated men and women. This is a quote. "When I turned around and saw my baby in that dress and she busted out crying, I sobbed, man, and I ain't no crier," said Leslie, an incarcerated father in Angola who participated in the dance. 37 daughters attended the dance, aged between 5 years old and 20 years old, with 29 fathers, each of whom wore a suit that was donated by Amor Suits. Other donations included the time and expertise of hair and makeup estheticians, a beauty product bag courtesy of T3 Micro, and decorations and floral arrangements provided by God Behind Bars. A Thanksgiving dinner was prepared before the dance, and the dance itself included pieces that were choreographed by the fathers. "We're supposed to be the worst of the worst and the hardest of the hardest," said one of the inmates named Kevin, "and we walk around like that sometimes. Seeing all of us together with our kids, the loves of our lives, with no masks. That was cool." It's hard to put into words what took place at the first ever daddy-daughter dance inside Angola prison, said Jake Bodine, the founder of God Behind Bars, in a statement that he made and sent to Newsweek magazine. He says, "I watched a group of men stand with pride and dignity, shedding every label the world had ever put on them. For one night, they were not inmates, they were dad. And the empty places in every heart were filled with joy, laughter, and a love only God can author." Listen, we love special stories here, and that one is truly, truly special. It touches my heart. And I say, good for you, God Behind Bars. And just my heart goes to every dad, every daughter, every family member, not just at the Angola prison, at the Angola penitentiary. Think about how many family members are incarcerated and they don't get to see family. They don't get to have those times of interaction. So this had to be a very, very special time. And again, the masks come down, the need to present a certain way behind bars in order to keep yourself secure and safe, maybe, and to present a certain image. Those can break down at least for one night. And who knows the impact they can have in the long run. So well done. Well done. Great story, right? Yeah, I'm with you, Shalane. This is precious, and I think it is beyond words. Hey, we have one birthday this week. A friend of Coffee Breaks with Steve, Sean Cullen Carroll, who has appeared on the show, celebrating a birthday this coming week on December 11th. So happy birthday to you, Sean, and wish you the very best. I know he's involved in doing some acting on the East Coast, as well as other business ventures. And I think he's currently involved in a production of Come From Away, which is about this part of the airlines that had to make emergency landings in unusual places on September 11th, 2001, after the attacks on the United States. It's an interesting musical based on historical facts, and I think Sean is currently involved in a production of that. By the way, I'm currently, can't necessarily tell this from the backdrop because we use a virtual backdrop, but not at home, not in my home studio this weekend. Carol and I are currently in Oregon, in Tigard, Oregon, visiting with our friends Scott and Jody Platt, who are lovely enough to host us at their house. We arrived yesterday, spent the night here. And after the show today, we're going to be heading to Eugene, Oregon to attend a very special service. Carol's Uncle Mel passed away a few weeks ago at the age of 90. A wonderful man with just a wonderful family. And he passed away with family surrounding him. It was very peaceful. And we have the opportunity today to go down to Eugene, where Mel and his wife, Roberta, have lived for many, many years, and most of their family is there. And we're going to be attending the memorial service for Uncle Mel today. And so I want to give just a shout out to that part of our family, and just let you know that we're not in our usual location. And a special thanks to Scott and Jody for letting us be here and letting me set up and do this from here today. Listen, do you have a special day this week? Let us know that in the chat so that we can celebrate and acknowledge that. Do you have a special day coming up, perhaps in the rest of this year, going into 2026? Yes, I said 2026 out loud. Got to start getting used to that. It's December. Maybe you have a special story like the one we shared about the daddy-daughter dance in Angola, Louisiana. Maybe you've got some kind of an update from your own perspective that you would like us to share, or an item of interest that you think would be right for our sweet and savory segment. You can email us at cbwsteve@comcast.net, cbwsteve@comcast.net. You see that there on the screen. All right, listen, I want to give you just a little bit of an intro about our guest today. And by the way, you know, something I didn't do already, and I should have, is get our comments here visible to everybody. And just a reminder that you can join us from Facebook, or you can join us from YouTube. We are broadcasting live stream on both platforms. And the chat that is shared here comes from comments that are made either on Facebook or YouTube. So we'll try to keep those visible. If I move them out of the way, it's because I don't want to cover up somebody's face during part of our presentation today, but we'll keep them up there as much as absolutely possible. I want to tell you just a little bit about our guest today and share just some information about her. Her name is Katalin Till, and Katalin graduated from, pardon me, I'm getting some things ready here on my screen so that I can talk. All right, we'll try this. Katalin Till graduated from high school in the last year of Hungary's communist dictatorship, continuing her studies in a brand new course in catering, tourism, and hotels organized by the College of Commerce in Budapest, Hungary, where she also finished further studies in the field of hotel and tourism management. She has worked in the hotel and tourism industry in Budapest and throughout Hungary since 1993 as a local guide. Since 1993, Katalin has worked together with the Hungarian National Tourism Board, leading study tours, city visits, and theme tours for international experts, travel writers, wine and food critics, and cultural journalists. Over the last 30 years, she's been working with several Hungarian destination management companies on incoming tourism programs in Budapest and around the country, focusing on corporate incentives, conferences, and conventions as well. She's also worked as a local guide for river cruise companies for the last 10 years. Besides leading the pre-organized tours of several corporate and travel agencies, Kati has worked as a private guide with individual travelers for 20 years. Her work as a guide and having the opportunity to meet people from all around the globe with whom she can share all the knowledge and the stories she has gathered so far has become her profession, her life, and her passion. As the mother of 2 girls, Kati truly hopes she can share these interesting stories not only with the foreign travelers who visit her beautiful country, but with her daughters as well. All right, listen, we had an amazing time in Hungary. We enjoyed getting the opportunity to meet Kati while we were there and be given amazing perspectives on the city of Budapest and the surrounding area from her as a guide. And now I want to give you the opportunity to hear Katalin Till's story and inspire you to see more of her country and her beautiful city. Kati, welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve, and it's good to have you here today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thank you very much. Good morning for you. It's actually good evening here. The sun is going down now slowly.
Yes, it's because we're in a bit of a time difference here because we're speaking to you from your home in Hungary.
Exactly. I'm in Budapest in Hungary, and this is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And this time of the year, the sun goes down so early, so now it's getting a little darker and darker. And I really found this magic. You sitting on the other side of the world, and here we are. We see each other and we talk to each other. This is really amazing.
It really is, and such a pleasure to be able to do this. Just as sort of a bit of a note to our viewers, my wife Carol and I had the opportunity earlier this year to travel to Europe and participate in some tours. And during one of those, we had the pleasure of being in Budapest, Hungary, and met Kati as a local expert and tour guide. And I think this is kind of a starting point, Kati, is to get some idea from you about what it was like, what your life has been like in Hungary, what it was like to grow up there as a child, and just how you would share your own experience as someone who has lived your life there.
It's a very interesting question, because obviously for everybody, when you think about your childhood, and it's, sometimes for lucky people, it's a romantic, not for everybody, I understand, because not everybody's childhood was really nice and glamorous. But growing up in the 70s in Hungary, to be a child let's say in a communist country, as a country, we never ever reached real communism. So most of the time I use this term to make it easy for the people visiting us, which period we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But it's basically, it has been socialism. But anyway, the 70s in Hungary was not that hard for a child. It was actually quite easy, because do you really care about free speech, about free media, right? You have no idea what those are values. So you go to the kindergarten, there's no shortage on anything, because luckily in Hungary there's no shortage on anything, mm-hmm. The food, the clothing, there was lots of cultural events. So we went to the theater quite often with my parents, and to the cinema. There were lots of performances for children. So it was really a good period. Of course, it was not the same feeling to be an adult during this time,
Right.
For me, going to public school, because all the kids, we all had to go to public schools, because in a socialist country, everything was public. So there was no difference, basically. Everybody had to study Russian. I had to study 8 years Russian. And it was 4 years in elementary and 4 years in high school. So we had these very interesting, moments of the years of our education. But basically, education was quite good in Hungary, I think. Kindergarten has been really good, and then elementary schools, high schools. If you look around the world, there's so many great Hungarian scientists, artists, growing up, going to school around the same years when I went to school, and they gave so much to the world. And this definitely at all roots in education, I believe. So I was a pioneer, like we all had to be pioneers. That's part of the beauty of communism. It's a system that, that all these countries in Central Eastern Europe, we had to follow, and becoming part of the Soviet bloc countries, following the pattern in many ways. So, but it was a fun childhood. It was, wow. I think I can't complain really.
And as you grew up, I'm curious about your profession, and what were the events and the influences along the way that led you to want to become, and ultimately to become, someone who guides tours, who helps people learn more about your country. How did you end up going into this type of work?
I also have to go back in time, because as you asked me, how was my childhood? For example, being in a communist country like Hungary, we could only travel to Western Europe every 3rd year. So traveling, to the other world, to the capitalist part of Europe, it's always very exciting, and that was something that we always waited for. And I couldn't sleep whenever we had the chance to go and visit family in Western Europe. So that was always a big attraction for me. But then, as I was lucky enough to be born when I was born, which meant that I was just a young adult at the time of the political changes, and graduating from high school, I wanted to study in University of Law, but it was really hard to get into the university to become a lawyer, very hard. So I had to give it up. And then for a year after graduation, I worked. And somehow, I don't know, the wind blew in a piece of paper, which was about a brand new education. It just started that year. So that was basically the first year in the College of Tourism, Hospitality and Hotel Management. And it was for guides, but that was not the only attraction that, to be in tourism. But the main attraction for me was that a foreign language, not more than basic knowledge was required, either English or German. And I studied English in high school, and I always knew I wanted something with people. I wasn't sure what really, but with people, and I loved English language. So I thought it would be something so good to figure out, that I can do both, deal with people and use the language. And then it wasn't on that piece of paper that they start this brand new education. So there is such a thing as a tour guide. And so and then I got in, but the first difficulty to present this to my parents was that this was the very first education, among others probably, but in my life, that there was a tuition. We had to pay for it. Pay for education? Yeah. Oh, nonsense, unheard of, because it was all free. So now, how do you tell the parent that, okay, so if you could be so kind, please, and pay 20,000 forints per semester, which was a big money at the time. I'm talking about 1990, 35 years ago. I mean, yeah. So then they said, yes, okay. And I went and I studied. And it became more and more attractive for me, studying English, in English language. We had to study history, art history, and geography. And then finally, somebody that I knew offered a work. And I did a tour with a journalist who was an American, a travel tourism expert. And then I felt immediately... and then the more I did, the more I loved it. And for a couple of years, I only worked with journalists. That was for the Hungarian National Tourism Board. So I didn't get first the feeling of such tour groups, for example, that you travel with, regular tourism, but I met travel journalists like food critics, wine critics, specialists in tourism. And that was so exciting to learn, going with them, meeting people in Hungary who were real experts, either on winemaking, wine experts, or to go and learn about Hungarian cuisine from the chefs of the best restaurants. Mm-hmm. And, year by year, it added more and more to me. So besides coming out from the college, and plus I also studied tourism and hotel management, but I decided never, ever go into an office and work in a hotel, because to be out on the streets, out and about all the time and meet other people and share, that became very, very exciting for me. And this is my, 32nd, 33rd year as a guide.
And, you mentioned this, Kati, but it basically, to be effective at what you do, you're a combination of an historian, a food expert, an art expert, an expert on the political and social status and history of your country, as well as so many other things. And at the same time, something of an entertainer. You have to keep the interest of the people that you are guiding. How do you maintain that level of energy and that level of broad-based knowledge and understanding? Is there a process of continuing to learn, to continue to study, or is it just something now after this many years that just comes naturally?
Basically, it comes naturally. There's no such an official, that we have to, do any trainings. We do, of course, because we want to learn more, but it's not a requirement. But if you want to be somebody that's interesting, so that the people are not bored, because if you're bored when you talk, then everybody else will be bored, in the audience, or just a group. Or if it's like a private tour with 2 guests, that's actually the hardest, because then it's a continuous, every minute, every second of those hours, it's very deep, that you give of yourself. But luckily here in Budapest or in Hungary, the different places, different destinations, they require more and more to pass their training. So they give us more knowledge. They want us to go through their educations to get a license. So every year there are more and more such possibilities coming, and these always add on. When it comes to our like political life, obviously if you open, and you know what, when the guests are there and you stand in front of them and you look into the eyes, and then you feel the interest. And then you get the questions, then you learn what's interesting for the people. For example, when I was a young guide in the 1990s, 2000s, I never ever talked about my childhood. I never ever talked about my young years because I thought, who cares about, this is a guy, she should tell me what time the parliament building was built and how Budapest was created. But no, I realize it's not all of it that people want. Of course, they want to know because if I once do not mention what year the parliament was built, then there will be somebody. And by the way, please tell me what year was the parliament. So that's also a must. You have to know it. But I learned a lesson during the years and the decades that they are as much interested about life as you ask me now. How was the life because I grew up in communism. So roughly less than half of my life was under communism, and more of my life as I grow older, more is in democracy. But I had to realize that they are interested about life, because I also had to understand that living in the US, of course, you heard about the Soviet Union and you heard about the Cold War and these two biggest powers, the US and the Soviet. But what was in between the two? Like us, little Hungarians, a small country with 10 million people, and our life was hugely affected by.
Yes.
So it's really inspiring. It is very inspiring to meet foreigners, to understand their interests, and then sometimes I go after things that I'm asked, and I dig in and I collect more knowledge about different things.
You live and do a lot of your work in Budapest, but as a guide, is your expertise in the areas that you like to take people or are typically taking people confined to Budapest and that surrounding area, or do you help people explore and learn about other areas of your country?
Yeah, sure, all around. I realized just thinking about this and my work recently that less and less we go to the countryside, which is really, I'm sorry for that. When I started to be a guide and working with the journalists, we traveled a lot all around in the countryside, and lots of study tours. And I really feel sorry that more people though come to Hungary now, but they spend less time. So mainly they focus on Budapest. On one hand, I understand it. But on the other hand, I really feel sorry that there's so much beauty in the countryside as well. And as just mentioned earlier, we're big in wine. So if somebody's into wine, there's so amazing places. This is a very small country. If you open up the map, you can hardly find us because we're in the middle of Europe. We're tiny. But we have 22 wine regions. 22. Yeah. I mean, that's a high number. So there are places, yes, which means, yes, we local guides, we do tours theoretically all around in the country, but practically it's Budapest more and more and the smaller surrounding area.
Do you have a favorite place as a tour guide, whether it's in Budapest or anywhere else? Is there a place that you just really look forward to more than anything else to take people, show them, and share with them?
In Budapest are many, and we have such places. And, we have a saying in Hungarian, which finger to bite, because there's so many options and it hurts if I have to only choose one. So in Budapest, we'd rather not even go into this because it will be a long list. Mentioning you the countryside and the wine regions. Lately, I really fell in love with the closest wine region, that is to Budapest. It's a short drive, and such a charming place, such a lovely layout, and you don't have to sit hours in the car or in the bus, to reach it. 45 minutes. It's a beautiful, magical little area, landscape, very attractive, with the vineyards everywhere. There are lots of really old, hundreds of years of age little cellars. And I think recently it became one of my favorites, but I'm very much into medieval years as well. And here in Hungary, we have so many lovely little towns from the medieval years. Unfortunately, very little we have, real original medieval, because we've been through so much, so many wars and occupations, unfortunately, that destroyed a lot of our country and history. But whatever we have, we still have. I think that's really exciting. And whether you go to the south or you go to the northern eastern regions, you find such. But my other favorite, and this is because of my childhood, is around the Lake Balaton. The Lake Balaton, I go on my own and with the family. Lake Balaton is the largest freshwater lake in Central Eastern Europe. Mm-hmm. And now that's an amazing area.
Beyond, you mentioned being able to go places just with the family or personally, and I'm curious about places in the world outside of Hungary that are kind of on your bucket list that you would want to travel to as a tourist rather than as a guide.
My list is really long. And there are places I've been to and I would love to go back. Mm-hmm. On top of it is Scotland. I've been to Scotland, but it was too short. And definitely I need to go back because I somehow feel that so close to me and to my interest and, these medieval years and periods. And they have such an amazing history there. Mm-hmm. So definitely Scotland is still waiting. But another part of the world that I haven't been is Asia. And that's definitely on my many different parts of Asia that I would love to visit. And well, we'll see when. I've been to the US twice, and obviously I haven't seen everything, so there are still a lot of places to go in the US, but I've never been to South America, down in the southern, so that's another. But with me it's hard because there's such a long list.
Yes, I can understand. What do you find are some of the biggest misconceptions that people come in with that you have the opportunity to maybe address or correct?
The biggest misconception is that before they arrive, unless they do a little bit of research, the picture of Budapest in their mind is basically a gray picture of the city, maybe even boring. They come here because it's part of a certain tour, not necessarily coming only to Budapest because they want to visit this city, but it's part of a package. And they arrive, and then that's what I actually enjoy the most. I look at the faces of the people and the eyes when we go, when we look around, when we see Budapest by night. And then, and you know what I realized? And for long, I didn't understand why people are so, I talk and I like when they're quiet and they listen to what I say, but sometimes I felt that there's no reaction or they're too quiet. And then I realized, but it took me years, that I think they are just extremely surprised because they come with this picture in their mind that it's only communist, that we have whatever remained from those decades, and it's gray and it's miserable. And the Hungarians are probably, they only speak Russian. They don't know about the language. It comes, learn whether we have our own language. Is it Hungarian? Okay. It's very interesting when you see that the eyes are opening up and they're getting to understand. So I find that the most exciting to show that this is much more than those short 40 years of communism. I mean, it hasn't been short for those people who had most of their life under the communist regime. But before that and after, so much that we created here and we would love to show the world. So I find that really exciting. This is the biggest, I think, such a concept that people come with.
Yeah, I can understand that. And, having been there and seen the beauty of your country and the beauty of the city of Budapest, I can certainly see how people's minds can quickly be changed.
Oh,
If people
definitely.
do want to find out more, whether it's a group, a family, an individual, and they would like to find out more about you and perhaps arranging a guided experience in Budapest or other areas of Hungary, where can they find the information, Kati?
There's a website that's easy to remember. It's mybudapesttours.hu. And that's where it's just a very, very small group of us friends, close friends, and we all guides. And there are the offers we put together, especially, on this concept to show people different options and to start with. And then, of course, everything can be tailor-made, but that gives a nice, easy start for the foreigners when they first have a look. They just search, and then it's easy to go through. So if anybody visits mybudapesttours.hu, it would be a pleasure to show what we have here in Budapest. And thank you for asking this.
Absolutely. And we will be sharing that website on the screen, and we will be putting the links in the chat as well so people can get to that. Kati, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Thank you for sharing so much of the wonder and the beauty of your country, both live when we had the opportunity to experience it and to introduce it to more people, hopefully here. And hopefully this will be an opportunity for people to understand what a beautiful country Hungary is, what a beautiful city Budapest is, and in the future to have the opportunity to join you or join a group and visit.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here and to talk to you. And it was a pleasure to see you again, as being in the group that I had the chance to show around in Budapest. So it's like a double honor that I feel now. And please spread the word. It's a good place to come, and we're very happy to show what we have. And we're very proud of our culture, of our history, and the heritage of the Magyars. This is how we call ourselves. I'm a Magyar. This is what people don't really know. That's the term. So thank you very much. It was very nice talking to you.
Quite welcome. You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
So are you inspired? Inspired to consider Hungary among the locations you'd like to have on your bucket list of places to tour? It was really extraordinary for us, really, to visit several countries in Europe, some of which we had been to before, some of which we were visiting for the first time. And really, Carol and I love the history. We love the culture. We really are not so much go find a resort and go lay on the beach type of people. We're just not. I mean, that's not so much. I mean, that's not us. We are the types that want to go someplace so that we can learn about history, about culture, about the art, and the people of a region. And that was one of the things about Hungary. It was just such a beautiful location. The people were marvelous. And Katalin Till just really exemplifies that spirit of personality and connection and the beauty of a place and a people that we enjoyed so much. So I would encourage you to consider Hungary and city of Budapest. And as Kati said, not just restricted. I'd go back to Hungary to see some of the areas we didn't get to see. We did get outside the city of Budapest a little bit on our tours, and it was wonderful to see some of the surrounding areas. But we did stay relatively close to Budapest during our tour, and it would be lovely to go back and see even more of the country. I do want to let you know some things that are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're getting so close to the end of the year and the end of 2025. It's always amazing to me when we're planning out the year for Coffee Breaks with Steve, and we're setting our schedule, looking at our calendar, And it's the beginning of the year, and there's so many weeks that we need to plan for and look toward coming up and throughout the year. And then we get to this time of the year, and there's only 1 or 2 slots at most to fill in. And actually, we're filled in for the remainder of this year. We know what we're doing for the remainder of the year, and we're already looking into 2026. And I look back over the course of this year and just see how many amazing episodes, topics, guests have joined us on here. Just as a reminder, we have now been on the air for more than 6.5 years, moving toward our 7th year of doing Coffee Breaks with Steve. 298 episodes through today. 167 of those episodes have been with guests joining me on the show. And there have been 111 individuals who have joined at least one time on Coffee Breaks with Steve. I'm gratified by that. I'm humbled by that, and just so enjoy being able to share that with all of you. But here's what's coming up in the next couple of weeks on Coffee Breaks.
So it's just a bit of everything, none of it particularly glamorous, except when I have the privilege of meeting people like yourself on tours, and I get myself all dressed up in my glad rags and can chat about history and heritage and so on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it ends up kind of firefighting as well. It doesn't matter how well you plan your day. So it's like today, we had our day planned, and then got a call from the farmer to say that there's water pouring out of the cottage down the road. So that's Simon dealing with that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the last couple of weeks of our year. Our last episode of the year will be on December 20th when we're celebrating our 300th anniversary. As we go into the last week or so of the year through the holidays, we typically do not have an episode of Coffee Breaks with Steve on. That's Carol's and my time with our family being here for the Christmas holiday, and we break away from some of the normal activities just to spend time with family, and that will be happening as well at the end of the year. But I think it's amazing that we get to celebrate the last episode of this year as being our 300th episode overall. I'm once again humbled. I am filled with gratitude for the many guests who join us, and I'm equally filled with gratitude for all of you, the members of the Brew Crew who come together around our virtual coffee table each week, join the conversation, and allow us to be here as part of your family and you joining as part of ours. I want to say thank you once again to Katalin Till for sharing her story, amazing background of her upbringing and how she got into tourism, but also just sharing so much of her perspective on Budapest and on Hungary, and enjoyed speaking with her. As I think Shalane mentioned, love to listen to her beautiful English, but with that Hungarian accent. It's always fun. We do have the privilege of having as guest people who join us from other countries, and I always enjoy hearing other people speak our language with such beauty. I wish I was equally as able to speak their languages in many cases. Anyway, listen, so much going on as we come to the end of the year. There are just so many different ways that we can be effective. There are people who, as we come into the holiday season, it's not necessarily a time of joy. For some, it's a time of struggle for any number of reasons, but we can be hands and feet that reach out to them. There might be other ways that you think of reaching out to your community. And it's just a reminder, even with all the busyness of this holiday season, that for all of us, find a way to make a difference in our world this week. Thank you for joining us on Coffee Breaks with Steve. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Have a great week, And we'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.